aliens arrive on Earth and, using insanely powerful and destructive weapons, annihilate the entire city. Deep in space, hundreds of light years from Earth, a meteor races at increasing speed, hurtling relentlessly toward our planet. As it plunges through the dense layers of the atmosphere, it bursts into flames, roaring as it crashes somewhere in the mountains, leaving a smoky trail in its wake. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, a man is relaxing at home, watching a boxing match on TV. His downtime is interrupted by a phone call. The person on the other end tells him he needs to gather his team, Mike included. The man explains he hasn't spoken to Mike in a long time. He quit 8 months ago and, as far as he knows, still hasn't qualified. But he's told that everyone is needed. Promising to round everyone up by 1 p.m., the man drifts into memories of the past. Some time ago, he and other infantrymen had been taking down terrorists and rescuing hostages. After successfully neutralizing the guards inside and outside the building, the team found the captives. They also captured the brother of the lead terrorist and proposed a trade. The terrorist agreed, and everyone lowered their weapons. But in a last-minute twist, Mike, believing that such people only understood force, gave the command to open fire on the criminals. However, the terrorists managed to shoot at the hostages, killing them. At that same moment, Mike is at a shooting range, teaching an elderly woman how to shoot. After the session, he heads to his office to clean his weapon. One of his colleagues stops by to inform him he has a visitor. Mike asks to send the visitor to someone else, but his colleague insists, explaining the stranger specifically asked for him. Opening the door, Mike finds himself face to face with his former comrade. The two men head back to the shooting range. Mike adjusts the target to the middle of the room, but his companion moves it all the way to the wall. Noticing this, Mike points out that hitting from that distance requires a scope. His friend just shrugs and starts shooting. As Mike watches, he asks about Angie and the rest of the team, hearing that they're doing well but hinting that he should check in himself. His friend mentions that Mike has the same fiery temper as their father and reminds him that their anger had cost lives in the past. He goes on to tell Mike there's a new operation coming up and that Mike has been reinstated. With a briefing scheduled for 1 p.m. with his message delivered, he leaves. Mike removes his friend's target and sees that every shot had struck dead center of the head. After his conversation with his brother, the man heads to a bar. He reflects on the mistake he made during that old mission, the one that had cost the hostages their lives. Coming to some conclusion, he leaves the bar. At Marine Corps headquarters, a few men are busy with various tasks. One of them asks another if he's set up a date with the girl he recently met, but the other man doesn't want to talk about it and switches the topic to the health risks of protein shakes, saying they're loaded with saccharin and really bad for you. Not interested in that topic either, his friend pretends he didn't hear and keeps his attention on mixing his drink. Examining the shake, he decides the blender is useless and mutters that they need a new one. Their chat is interrupted by the arrival of CIA agents and their commanding officers. After introductions, the newcomers ask where Mike is. Chris says it's likely his brother won't show up. Right then, Mike walks in and joins the briefing. The CIA agents explain that a top-secret U.S. base in the Caucasus Mountains was shut down after the Cold War. However, 3 months ago, intelligence returned to the site to restart classified operations. In the last 12 hours, communication with the base has been lost, and drone footage shows that, in just 1 minute, everyone at the base vanished. Laughing, Jonesy suggests maybe they all left for Black Thursday. He's heard that stores have big discounts on those days. His joke is cut off by an agent, who sees no reason for humor. The agent is clearly irritated that Chris's team was chosen for the mission, saying it was the president's direct order. He'd rather see professionals on the job instead of a bunch of screw-ups. But since there's no choice, the Marines are to figure out what happened and retrieve a classified object from the site. While they can't say exactly what it is, they assure the team they'll know it when they find it. After the briefing, Mike studies the landscape maps. He tells Chris he's uneasy about having to work with so little information, saying the mission would be a lot easier if they were given all the details. Listening to his brother, Chris asks for a few minutes to talk. Before heading out, he wants to clarify something. He bluntly informs Mike that he's now in charge and couldn't care less about the friendly ties Mike has with the others. Mike will be expected to follow all orders and keep his temper in check. With a stony expression, Mike agrees to play by the rules. Some time later, the squad of Marines heads out on their special operation in the Voltovia forests in the Caucasus. Half a kilometer from the base, the squad splits into 2 groups. Chris and Mike advance directly, while Jonesy and Thorpe flank from the west. On their route, Jonesy and Thorpe discuss how strange it is for Chris to be in charge while Mike is on the same level as them. But Thorpe doesn't care much. He's more worried about what they might find at the base, suspecting the government is hiding something as usual. Meanwhile, Chris and Mike reach the perimeter fence. Chris is about to cut through it when Mike stops him, pointing out the eerie silence around them. No bird songs, no animals, not even mosquitoes. It's as if all life has vanished from the area. Chris dismisses it and asks the drone operator to scan the surroundings. Hearing that it's clear, he relays the plan to the others. Mike, however, disagrees, suggesting they enter through the back. Annoyed, Chris reminds him that he's in charge and that they'll do things his way. Once inside, the Marines rush to the main entrance of the building. Unknown to them, something is watching. observing their movements as pulses of electrical energy. As they reach the front steps, Chris asks Jonesy to check the radiation level with the Geiger counter. Jonesy reports that levels are slightly elevated but nothing dangerous. Chris then orders the doors to be breached. Inside, the team inspects their surroundings but finds nothing but empty space, no bodies, no signs of a struggle. Thorpe notes that the doors are reinforced with magnesium alloy, capable of holding back an entire army, but that hadn't saved anyone. Whatever happened here happened fast. Jonesy observes that there are no signs of a fight, suggesting they hadn't even had time to fire a shot. Mike speculates that maybe the threat came from inside, not outside. Deciding there's no point in staying put, Chris splits the team up to explore. As they walk the corridors, the Marines find small piles of ash scattered around. In one room, two of them come across a wall covered with strange symbols. Thorpe takes a closer look and suggests it resembles some kind of language. Meanwhile, Chris and Mike find signs of life in one of the labs. Moving deeper in, they see a person in a hazmat suit rummaging through a refrigerator. Spotting the soldiers, the figure bolts, but they quickly catch up. After restraining the individual and removing the suit, they discover it's a woman named Isabella, who had been studying soil samples at the base. The Marines ask why she ran from them. Nervously, Isabella admits she thought they were from a cleanup crew. She then asks what the CIA told them. Surprised to learn they were told nothing. Mike, frustrated by the lack of answers, loses his patience, but Chris steps in to calm things down. Sitting in front of her, he speaks gently, asking her to explain what happened. Isabella hesitates, then offers to show them. Heading down to the restricted lab on the third basement level, the girl shows them the artifact she found, a strange, shiny stone with jagged edges. They discovered it in the forest a few months back and have been studying it ever since. It has markings in an unknown language, and they still can't identify what it's made of. She only survived because she was in a Faraday room. The CIA shut them down, giving them only 20 minutes to pack up, and she wanted to grab soil samples. From inside the room, she saw them come for the artifact, aim a laser at it, and then watched as it absorbed the beam and released a massive pulse that incinerated everyone on base. She just got lucky. Hearing her story, Jonesy freaks out, saying he's not paid enough to risk turning into ash. Thorpe, excited, insists it's aliens. Chris tries to calm everyone down, but no one seems to be listening. Seeing this, Mike steps in, giving his brother a look and telling everyone to stay focused and follow the commander's orders. Chris then sends Thorpe to the roof to report what they've learned about the artifact, but Isabella says it won't work. There are signal jammers up there. Thorpe reassures her, saying they'll find a way around it, but they need to prep the artifact for evacuation. Thorpe heads to the roof and notices something strange watching him again. Contacting the commander, he confirms that the jammers are blocking long-range signals, and there's no way around them. At that moment, Jonesy notices something unusual happening with the stone, and Thorpe realizes the jammers weren't set up for them. They're blocking an extremely powerful signal coming from the artifact itself. Looking up, a Marine spots a strange object in the sky. Mike checks the drone cameras, but nothing shows up. Suddenly, a bizarre sound fills the air, causing their ears to ring. Chris orders Jonesy to stay with Isabella and guard the artifact while he and his brother head outside. Outside, they find a drone lying on the ground. Inspecting it, one of them notes it didn't run out of fuel and wasn't shot down. It must have crashed into something. As they get ready to leave, an explosion goes off right behind them. Ducking behind a corner, they spot 4 aliens appear. Mike thinks they should attack, but Chris disagrees. He approaches them, demanding they leave. The aliens don't budge. After a final warning, Chris orders his team to open fire, but the aliens deploy an energy shield, deflecting the bullets harmlessly. Realizing they're outmatched, Chris orders a retreat and contacts Jonesy, saying they need a keycard to lock the door. Jonesy grabs it from Isabella and sprints to his team, managing to pass it to Chris just as the aliens close in, allowing him to lock the doors. Back in the lab, the commander asks the girl for access to the cameras to monitor the aliens. Jonesy doesn't get why they don't just hand over the artifact. They know the aliens want it. Thorpe disagrees, arguing that it might be like an atomic bomb that could wipe out all life on Earth. Turning to Mike, both friends ask for his opinion. Mike glances at his brother, asks the scientist a few questions, and concludes the artifact selectively kills. It destroyed all living beings except plants and trees. If the aliens reach it, they could wipe out humanity with a single button and claim a fresh, new planet. After a while, Jonesy mixes himself a protein shake, which makes Thorpe scoff, wondering how he can think about food at a time like this. Jonesy explains that a body like his needs fuel every few hours. Handing Thorpe a cup, he suggests he could learn a thing or two from him. Rolling up his sleeves, he confidently strides over to Isabella, but unimpressed by his muscles, she quickly brushes him off. Chris then approaches Mike, frustrated with his brother's behavior. The others have started listening to Mike, and now he's getting carried away, giving orders despite promising to respect the chain of command. Their conversation is interrupted by Isabella, who's surprised by something she sees on the cameras. The aliens look a lot like humans, she says. Looking at the monitor, they see the aliens setting up an energy barrier around the building, apparently, a barricade to keep them from escaping. Evaluating their options, Chris says they need reinforcements, which means getting in touch with the CIA. Thorpe mentions seeing a cable on the roof and suggests they might be able to get a signal through a phone line, but someone will need to fix it. Turning to Isabella, the commander asks her where the line is located. Cursing, she tells them it's back in the main hall where they came from. Splitting up, each heads to their position. Before leaving, Thorpe accidentally bumps into Isabella, causing her to drop some papers. As he picks them up, he notices they're written in the alien language, though she admits she hasn't cracked the pattern yet and can't read it. Meanwhile, the others are approaching the hall and get to work on the repairs. Just then, one of the aliens stands right outside the door, listening to their conversation. Thorpe radios in, letting them know there's an alien at the door. Dropping their tools, they aim at the entrance, but nothing happens. Chris orders Mike to continue the repair. Suddenly, Thorpe reports that the alien has vanished. The soldiers are baffled, but Mike finishes the repair. At that moment, Chris tackles him as an alien appears right in front of him. They manage to fire off a few rounds and escape, but not before the alien knocks out their phone line. As it happens, the creature grabs its head as if in pain. The rest of the team joins up, scanning the building. Back in the lab, Chris reports they're nearly out of ammo, and their only way to call for backup is destroyed. This means no one will come looking for them for another 7 hours. Isabella panics, fearing they can't hold out that long. Mike rallies the team with a motivational speech, reminding them that Navy SEALs never give up. They may be short on weapons, but they have a leader who's always got their backs, his brother, Lieutenant Chris, and they're ready to follow his command. Feeling reinvigorated, Chris recalls the alien's strange reaction when the laser hit the phone. Smirking, Jonesy jokes that maybe they're allergic to electricity. Isabella then has a revelation. They may have electrolocation, like dolphins and sharks, which disrupts their vision when they sense electricity. The guys are encouraged by this discovery, but they're still unsure how to weaponize it. After all, it's not like they can shoot them with electronics. Isabella nods, but she has an idea. Unfolding the building map, Isabella reveals that it operates on a backup power source but is connected to the main energy generator for the entire city. If they blow it up, it will blind the aliens for 1 minute. However, there's a catch. It's located on the first floor. After thinking for a moment, another idea strikes her. She dashes into the adjacent room and emerges with a Faraday suit, which will mask their electrical impulses and make them invisible to the aliens. The problem is that there's only one suit. Listening to her plan, Chris quickly formulates a strategy. He orders the team to gather all the equipment they can find. As they pile everything together, Thorpe tosses in a Nutri Plus grind blender. Jonesy protests, upset that he's being careless with it because he plans to take it home when this is all over. Chris tries to stop him, but Jonesy insists that such a blender is hard to find and isn't even available on eBay. Realizing how much it means to Jonesy, the commander allows him to keep it safe for now. After observing the artifact for a moment, Chris heads back to the lab, where he finds Michael putting on the Faraday suit. Unhappy with his brother's impulsive decision, Chris is about to stop him, but Michael convinces him that Chris needs to stay back as the leader. Agreeing with him, Chris orders Michael to head to the generator while the rest of the team takes their positions. As they prepare for the mini-operation, Michael enters the elevator in his suit. When the doors open on the necessary floor, he finds himself face to face with an alien. He radios Isabella, who advises him to stay still. The alien won't see him as long as he doesn't move. Once the creature walks away, Michael informs the others and makes his way toward the generator room. Meanwhile, the others sneak into various rooms, gathering all the equipment into one place and plugging it in. Setting up an improvised barricade with the powered devices, the men take cover behind it and radio Michael that the trap is ready. He's almost at his target, but when he enters the room, he realizes it's the wrong one. Suddenly, an alien appears right behind him. He tells Isabella over the radio that the creature has spotted him. She remembers something about static. The more he moves, the more static electricity the suit accumulates. He needs to find a way to discharge it without touching anything metal. However, Michael is tired of playing hide and seek with the alien, so he grabs a huge wrench off the table. The alien lunges at him, but he manages to dodge and escape. Meanwhile, 2 aliens approach the barricade the others are hiding behind, while a third teleports right in front of them. Chris immediately orders them to open fire, but before the bullets can cause any damage, the creature disappears and reappears in another part of the room. This pattern continues several times. Meanwhile, Michael finally locates the room with the generator. Over the radio, Isabella informs him where to find the key. Approaching the box, he sees 100 different keys inside. The soldiers are puzzled by the aliens' behavior. Why aren't they shooting back? Suddenly, Chris realizes their tactic. They're trying to exhaust the humans' ammunition. He immediately orders them not to fire at the aliens but at the electronics instead. Jonesy anxiously pleads with him not to damage his blender. Moments later, one of the aliens teleports in, lands right on the blender, and crushes it. Furious, Jonesy throws down his gun and lunges at the alien with his bare hands. As soon as he tackles it to the ground, they both disappear. They reappear in a different office, then in the middle of a corridor, and finally on the roof. While Jonesy grapples with the alien, teleporting around the building, Chris radios Michael, urging him to hurry. At that moment, Michael desperately tries to find the right key. After some time, he remembers he's a Navy SEAL and shoots the lock with his gun. Jonesy continues to fight the alien on the roof. Standing on the edge, the creature lunges at him, and they both fall off, but it teleports them to its home planet. As they soar through the streets of the alien city, the soldier notices how beautiful it is. In the next moment, they find themselves back in the same room with Chris and Thorpe. At that instant, Michael successfully powers up the generator to full capacity. The aliens immediately lose their vision and teleport away. The soldiers gather together, celebrating their success, but suddenly, an alien appears behind Chris and snatches the commander away with it. Surrounded on all sides by the enemy, Chris tries to get them to respond, demanding to know what they want, but they remain silent. Back in the laboratory, the men contemplate their next move. Michael suggests using force, as it's the only thing these criminals understand. However, he's interrupted by Jonesy, who recalls the alien world he saw, which resembled a shell and was peaceful. Hearing this, Isabella immediately shows him a drawing, and he confirms that the city looked identical. Thorpe and Isabella exclaim in unison that this represents the Fibonacci sequence and rush to the computer. Reading the alien language in a spiral, they discover the key to unlocking the artifact. Amazed by what they see, Michael notes that they now have a bargaining chip. Unlocking the entrance doors, the squad steps outside. There, they find 4 aliens waiting with Chris. Following the men is Isabella, carrying the opened artifact, which turns out to be a rescue capsule. A few months earlier, it had crashed, and since then, the aliens had been searching for it. Michael proposes a deal to the beings, Chris in exchange for their kin. Chris recalls a story from the past, but his brother reassures him, ordering the others to drop their weapons on the ground. The aliens release the soldier and take the capsule. Thanking the humans and saluting each other, they depart from Earth. Back home, Chris and Michael head to CIA headquarters to report. Sitting in the office, they agree not to disclose anything about the aliens, teleportation, the capsule, or the laser weapons. No one would believe them, and they'd just get fired. Instead, they decide to say there was an explosion that killed everyone except Isabella. They interrogated her, and she confirmed this version of events. Just then, a man enters the office, and they fall silent. He sits in his chair, reads the report, and studies the soldiers intently. What qualities do you think a true leader should possess? And who do you think would have handled this operation better, Chris or Michael? Share your thoughts in the comments down below, give a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next videos.